Good morning and welcome to the new episode, Saturday special of Dr. Lamba's Awakening Call. Indians are mostly presumed to be more concerned with illusion, Maya, and that is the prevailing concept. Everything is illusion, nothing is real. And that's one of the most misunderstood concepts. As a matter of fact, the various aspects of reality have been presented by the Indian philosophy in a manner that is unparalleled. We in India had the genesis of philosophy that was later on propounded by the Greek, by the Romans, by the Germans. And unfortunately, the people who were not conversant with the reality forgot that their philosophy, various aspects of philosophy, had originally been thought of in India and China, Egypt. And then the Indologists, the Chinese scholar and others, when they studied these aspects, they were astounded and those were taken up. For example, I was talking the other day of hedonism. That was first propounded in India. Similarly, there are two sages of ancient India who provided philosophical views on the concept of reality. And that was based on the mythology, philosophical treatises like Ramayana, Mahabharata, Gita, Vedas, Upanishads. And these two philosophers are practically not known even. One of them, Vasisht, is known as a sage, not as a philosopher. So many commentaries have been written on two wisdom works. And these were great. One was sage Vasishtha. And he worked and wrote about the essence of his interaction with Prince Ram before he became a king, before he fought the war. Then other is by sage Ashtavakra. Now Ashtavakra had a sort of dialogue with King Janak, the father of Sita, who himself was a great scholar. Now these two treatises are exactly what was done later on by Plato and Socrates. You remember Plato's dialogues. So these are the two dialogues which contain the gems of philosophy, and both are having valuable nuggets of deep insight that help us come to understand what is real and what is not real. So the mask of Maya or illusion that has been imposed on Hindu philosophy, if you study these two works, you would find that has no validity at all. Bhagavad Gita is a lecture of Krishna to Arjuna, and it synthesizes several schools of practice and approach to liberation. As a matter of fact, Gita is not one school. People only talk of karma. There's one. People only talk of doing your duty, unmindful of the results. There's another one. But that's not everything. There are at least 50 schools of thought which have been bound together, connected together, and then presented in this book. But then there's Bhagavad Gita, most of people are aware. But how many people are aware of Ashtavakra Gita? Now, Ashtavakra Gita is more of a direct commentary on Upanistic knowledge. And Upanistic knowledge, as we are aware, all the Upanishads are storehouses of knowledge, thought, and understanding of the human mind and the human duty. So Ashtavakra Gita is the first direct commentary on Upanishadic knowledge. So I can call it in the Indian tradition Brahm Vidya, the Vidya of the God, the education of the gods. Of course, the originals have been lost and much has been lost in the transcreation, but there has been a great thing done, and that is that the verses of Ashtavakra have been transcreated. Of course, they have taken a bit of poetic license and present the present, what the verse or the text is trying to convey. And that is the beauty of Sanskrit. Now, Ashtavakra Gita is a song, and the person who is doing it is no other than Ashtavakra himself. By itself, the word Ashtavakra means 8 bends in his body. The body bends at 8 places. The story is, and the tradition is, that this man, Ashtavakra, was physically challenged, but he was extremely capable, intelligent, right from the childhood. And the Hindu tradition was to have a spiritual debate among the intellectuals. They used to call it Shashtarth. And that is the same thing which Plato did in his dialogues, and Socrates did it, and Aristotle did it. So this spiritual debate took place, this Shashtarth took place between Raja Janak, the King Janak, father of Sita, and Ashtavakra. And Janak's hobby was, or a regular practice was, to have spiritual debates with intellectuals. He was a real gem of a person who combined the concept of a spiritual king, a person who combined spirituality, morality, ethics with power. So in one such debate, Ashtavakra's father was about to lose. Actually, the debate was between the father and King Janaka, and father was going to lose the debate. And then Ashtavakra was a very young boy, hardly 12 or 13. He started participating, intervened. And in his debate, he defeated all the intellectuals there. King Janaka came off his throne, walked down, very impressed, and made Ashtavakra his guru. He said, "Look here, Ashtavakra, you may be a cripple, you may be a child, but you are my teacher." So then came Ashtavakra Gita, which is a dialogue between King Janak and Ashtavakra. It's a book that's worth reading. As a matter of fact, it's so full of nuggets of knowledge, and it tells you everything about yourself, who you are, what you are, what's the purpose of your life, why are you here, what will happen when you die, would the world come to an end. It's basically a book that deals with self-realization, enlightenment, self-awareness, and I talked yesterday, to rule yourself. So read this book to rule yourself. The point to be noted is that one who is asking the question is a great king, King Janaka. And later on, after this debate, he was also called an enlightened king. And the man who is giving the answer to the Guru is a young boy, much younger, but mighty in knowledge and wisdom. Now this Gita, Ashtavakra Gita, tells us about the reality and the mode of self-realization. The other one, Bhagavad Gita, literally means a song of the divine. It was sung by Krishna on the battlefield of Mahabharata, Kurukshetra. And here is also the same thing. Even Bhagavad Gita tells about self-knowledge, but it's much more pervasive. It's a spiritual guide, and it is also a management guide. As a matter of fact, I've talked extensively how it's a management tool. And no MBA should be there who has not read Gita. Krishna is telling Arjun, without knowing yourself, you cannot do anything. With knowing yourself, there cannot be right action. You should do everything first to know yourself. Self-realization, self-awareness. And once you have known yourself, you should do everything to dispel how to know yourself. So first get the knowledge and then disperse the knowledge, give the knowledge. And when all other actions are coming to an end, then this knowledge of yours will stand you in good stead. Because all other actions are secondary, but knowing yourself is a primary thing. So Bhagavad Gita is a dialogue, though it's a one-sided dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna. The key point to note is that this is a dialogue between two dear friends, while Ashtavakra Gita is a dialogue between a teacher and a pupil. Now, about being famous and non-famous, which is the important part of self-realization, everybody wants to be famous. As they say, fame is a is a last infirmity of a noble soul. There are two Sanskrit words, siddhi and prasiddhi. Siddhi means I know myself. Prasiddhi means the word knows me. And when you know yourself, and then the word knows you, that is the acme of self-realization and connectivity to the world. And that is the reality. Expounded by Ashtavakra Gita and Bhagavad Gita. Just think, if I don't know myself and the word knows me, then what's the point of this fame? On the other hand, I know myself, but word doesn't know me, then who cares? So the people who talk of asceticism and going in jungles and renouncing the word are basically lopsided personality. If you are a man, you can say balls. If you are a woman, you can say get off. The differentiating point is, are you happy or not? Are you blissful or not? Are you conscious or not? So who cares about being famous for things which are not authentic? Be famous, but be famous for the reality. And the reality is authenticity. So enlightenment has to do with your attitudes and aptitudes and nothing to do with the non-essential things. As a matter of fact, when I was reading Ashtavakra Gita, I said, well, what have I been doing? This opens the doors to the new thoughts. I came to realize that my being blunt is a major part, because an authentic person must be blunt. No sugarcoating. That doesn't mean being indecent. Now, the word has changed. Krishna is no more in this word, nor is Ashtavakra, nor is Janaka. But does it matter to them? We are still talking about them, and that is our fame. Fame is not what a newspaper talks about you today. Fame is what your future generations are going to talk about. When CNN called me 1 in a million, I didn't feel flattered. When YouTube counted me among the 50 top influencers of the world, well, it is okay. But when, after 50 years, my students at that time write to me even now, full of love and regard, that shows that I had an impact on them, and that is faith. What is important is that you have to walk on the path of self-knowledge and attain authenticity, and that's what Ashtavakra Gita is. Now, Bhagavad Gita also says the same, but here it stops. Bhagavad Gita does not talk about the fame after death. after century. Bhagavad Gita is you, yourself, this minute, this moment, this second. Ashtavakra is you, yourself, today, tomorrow, day after, and the end of the world. So that's the reality. Two aspects of reality. Going together for something, then diverging. So it's for the individual to consider which Gita to follow, or to follow both. Now, what's the difference between Ashtavakra Gita and Bhagavad Gita? Bhagavad Gita is very easy to understand, let me tell you. Bhagavad Gita is easy to understand because it's a shortcut to find the purpose of life. And it's a kind of one size fits all. As I said, it's a book of knowledge, it's a book for management, it's a book for warfare, it's a book for action, it's a book for living your life according to the Ashtavakra. Is a path of non-duality to self-realization. Now mind you, Bhagavad Gita is duality and self-realization. Ashtavakra Gita is non-duality leading to self-realization. Bhagavad Gita is about karma. So it's a mantra for the worldly life, day-to-day life. Because tomorrow you die, who cares? Ashtavakra is a masterpiece, and when it comes to spiritual texts of non-duality, this is what explains the nature of the self, the nature of beauty, and the nature of bondage, of slavery. Bhagavad Gita doesn't talk about that. As a matter of fact, Bhagavad Gita is for the attainment of knowledge and success, managing self and others. Action, right result. Ashtavakra is reality, bondage, and moving away from the worldly life when you are no longer there. So they are diametrically opposed poles, starting, as I said, at one place and then diverting. It's like the river Ganges coming from the Himalayas, and near there, when it reaches, say, Kanpur, or say even Allahabad, diverts. And one stream goes towards Narmada, and then on to the Arabian Sea, the other goes to the Bay of Bengal. Ashtavakra Gita is meant as a self-inquirer. Bhagavad Gita is meant for warriors. Very few like to become Buddha, Mahavira, Ashtavakra. Let's be very clear. So why is Bhagavad Gita appealing? Because it deals with the present day reality, not the future reality. The other aspect of future reality done with the Ashtavakra. But how many people want to be Ashtavakras, Buddhas or Mahavirs? But everybody wants to become an Arjun, everybody wants to become Mahavir, everybody wants to become even Karan. Very few people like to be a witness. Many like to be participants, and that is Bhagavad Gita participant. Witness to the reality, Ashtavakra Gita. People find joy in conquering Mount Everest because the challenge satisfies ego. And Bhagavad Gita is appealing to the masses. But how many people can admire the beauty of Everest and living ego is the way of the material world? Spirituality is egolessness. As I said, you want fame, 2 days fame in newspaper. But the real fame is not that. You can enter a dream for the heck of it. And now I'm quoting from Ashtavakra. You can enter a dream for the heck of it, and now not a way to exit from the world that brought your life. In sleep, awake to the desire manifest. In the raging flame that consume, you are being stranded among the embers, aglow. Each spark ignites your mind. Where the forest green will grow anew. Once upon a time in the future past, luring the hunter once more in the pursuit of the game you love. And this is called the dreamer. And this is among the very lyrical presentations that take one down the transcendental path. The path throwing open the realms beyond, opening tantalizing glimpses of the world. Yog Vasisht, many feel, is quick and a journey in the dark. They forget that at times it tells you definitely a depressed state of mind, which was experienced by Prince Ram, who is uncertain of the present and the future as a king. Sage Vasisht, in an attempt to generally lead the way out of the gloom felt by the prince, engages him in a series of questions. Now again the dialogue comes. So we've taken Ashtavakra, here's the Yog Vasisht, the second one. Engages him in a series of questions and answers, enlightens him on the king's burden and shows him the light. And in the process we get a glimpse of the elaborate subjects we dread, like death. Is hopelessness is hidden? The hope of life and death, of the morning life. That's what is there. Now Vasisht is also the writer of the 7th book of Rig Veda. Possibly you are not aware that Rig Veda is not one book, there are many books combined. The hymn composed by Vasisht are dedicated to Agni, to Indra and other gods. And these are significant for Indra Varun hymns. They transcend all thoughts of bigotry and a mutual coordination and harmony between two religious ideals, abandoning disputed ideas of each. As a matter of fact, I was having a talk with Alison Finlay, and he says that Vasishta's hymns in Rig Veda are among the most intriguing in many ways, and they are influential because he emphasizes means to be as important as ends. We ordinarily say end is important, mean is not. He says no, means are equally important. But one thing which is common in both Vasisht and Ashtavakra is that the need to maintain an affectionate detachment, be detached and be together. And this is well articulated by King Janak when he says, infinite is indeed my wealth, of which nothing is mine. So infinite is my wealth and nothing is mine. If Mithila is burnt, nothing that is mine is burnt. So one's true self is infinite, boundless, all-pervasive, formless, subtle and few. So this is the two aspects of philosophy, two aspects of reality that are enshrined in by Vasisht and by Ashtavakra. And they are, in fact, two torches that lighten the way on our dark journey of life. Thank you.